Hello, welcome to the Games Age Topical Podcast. Today I'm joined by Kedar. Kedar, say hi,
Hello.
and
Hello.
Ravi.
Hi.
And the reason we're getting together today is a very simple one. We are here to talk about an absolute zinger. And the zinger, I'm sure you guys know, I'm sure you guys have heard about it. It's been a couple of days. We have taken a bit of time to gather our thoughts around it. But the real idea here is that it's staggering, the news that we have in front of you. And before we actually uh, get down to discussing what the news is, let me give you the grand reveal. So, as you guys might be aware, Microsoft has purchased Zenimax Media. Now, Zenimax Media is, of course, the parent company of Bethesda Softworks, which in turn is the parent company of a number of studios, right? We all know about that. And this effectively means that they are now loaded with a shit ton of IPs, right? And a shit ton of games, which we're going to get down to. We're going to discuss about what the implications are. But let me spend like a minute to read the fine print that I have in front of me over here from gamesindustry.biz. Microsoft has announced the surprise acquisition of ZeniMax Media, the parent company of Bethesda Softworks. The deal costs 7.5 billion, that's billion with a B, and expands the number of development studios Microsoft owns from 15 to 23. It also adds 2,300 employees and some significant games IP to Xbox's portfolio. Among Bethesda's internal development teams were Bethesda Game Studios, responsible for Elder Scrolls and Fallout, as well as Doom developer id Software, Dishonored creator Arcane, Wolfenstein developer Machine Games, The Evil Within team Tango Gameworks, Zenimax Online Studios, Alpha Dog, and Roundhouse Studios. Other IPs now part of Microsoft ownership also include Prey, Rage, and upcoming properties Deathloop and Starfield. What do you guys think about this? Okay, before we actually take the topic forward, Ravi, your video cut off.
Yes, Droid Cam. Yeah.
Okay, great. So, what do you guys think about this piece of news? Kedar, what do you think? First impressions.
Staggering for sure. Staggering for sure. If the game industry is a game of Uno, then Microsoft has just thrown a draw four on Sony's draw four.
So it's now
That's
a
what I
draw
will
eight
say for now.
or a reverse.
Yep. Whose move is it next?
Whose move is
Wait
it
and find
next?
out.
What are we going to see from Sony? I'm sure the guys at Sony HQ are probably like, we didn't see this one coming, didn't we?
They probably did. So I will get into this later as well. But they were planning on getting exclusivity for Starfield
Mm-hmm.
for a very long time,
Mm-hmm.
and that surprisingly enough didn't go well. Maybe Bethesda was asking for a lot more money,
Mm-hmm.
and Sony just couldn't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Interesting. Starfield, of course, is a game that's pretty much that's way off, right? It's gonna be a while before it's out there. So,
yep.
but it is interesting to note that Bethesda have probably opted for their competitors, their rivals, and that's where it is right now. Ravi, what do you think about this acquisition?
Hmm.
First thoughts.
I think okay. So first thoughts. So personally, as a gamer, I'm sort of zonked by the price of the whole acquisition. It's like 7.5 billion. That's like the biggest acquisition and in the industry as of now. And for Bethesda, I don't think that's like. I personally don't think it's worth it. But then they've like their main cash cow is Doom,
Mm-hmm.
and the Elder Scrolls franchise if they ever get around to releasing another game that. And like it is a big acquisition, no doubt about that. But I feel like when it comes to competition with Sony, this does when it comes to like the games Sony has versus the games Bethesda has, is it sort of puts Xbox in the same ballpark as Sony does. Like
Right,
in terms of like scale of titles, if you think
right,
about it.
right.
So before I don't think Xbox had many exclusive Xbox titles that could actually go toe to toe with the titles that a PlayStation has, like God of War or Horizon Zero Dawn, which did come to PC later on, but it's still not Xbox, so it's the Steam. Uh, so
So
Sony
this is
published.
yeah, this
I,
has really been one of the criticisms that have been levied against Microsoft and Xbox particularly, right? That when
yeah,
it
that
comes
they
to
do. The
exclusivity,
titles are
yeah,
not like. I mean, the biggest one that stands out for Microsoft is Forza. Like it's the one
hmm,
game franchise that has consistently stayed from the beginning of Xbox and is now sort of like evolved to a point where it is. And even in the beginning, like when they had Forza, it was like sort of like fairly nascent compared to Sony's own Gran Turismo franchise, and then they sort of built Forza in its own direction with the and Motorsport games and all that. So now they have with Bethesda, they have a number of big publishers that are capable of putting out AAA titles more consistently.
right,
And that is what makes Xbox competitive in the same ballpark range as PlayStation, but I wouldn't say it's some sort of like masterstroke that, totally outshines Sony. Like Sony is still very much in the same range of competition, and it's just a matter of which uh, company has the better games right now. So
right. So
that remains to be seen.
let me take this moment to let me take this opportunity to sort of pose the question that everyone's asking, right? Because okay, let's get the facts. This has been one of the most strong criticisms among the stronger criticisms that have been levied against Xbox. Their lack of original IPs per se is how I would frame it. And doesn't this move solve it? Doesn't would you say that this solves the problem? No? Yes?
Does
Actually, it sort of does. It sort of does. I will tell you what, though. I am pretty sure Microsoft is not done acquiring big studios.
Hmm.
This is like the beginning. Because Bethesda has Doom, it has the Arcane games from Dishonored and the upcoming Deathloop. I think the biggest upcoming titles with this move are now the upcoming Forza Horizon game, whenever that will be revealed. That is like their own proprietary
Right.
game. So
That's
because
Microsoft Studios,
Playground
right?
games, yeah, because Microsoft has had Forza for a very long time.
Hmm.
Age of Empires 4, if that ever comes out, they did tease it,
Someday.
and along with that, they now have access to Bethesda's upcoming games, which are uh, Deathloop and Starfield.
Right.
Those are the major titles that Microsoft has access to right now.
Right.
So it's a pretty ambitious move, but they
Hmm.
still need more to actually compete with Sony's big hitters like
Hmm.
God of War and stuff like that.
Hmm. Does this hurt Sony?
Financially, hmm,
Does
this
this hurt
doesn't
Sony?
really hurt, not really.
I don't really
I
think
still
so.
I still think that despite the acquisition, it does put Xbox in competition with Sony, but they're both still very individual entities as far as the gaming target audience is concerned anyway. Like Sony still remains the best option as far as its target audience is concerned. Like when it comes to PlayStation games, you will still buy a PlayStation. If you want to play the God of War, if you played the previous PlayStation games, you will want a PlayStation 5 because you want to play the upcoming PlayStation games. You just
Right.
know that you're that good. That is a reliability that Xbox is trying to achieve, and Bethesda is the beginning for that.
Hmm. Kedar, what do you think? Do you think this is
Hmm.
what are your thoughts on this? So for me, if you ask me honestly, I'm of the opinion that Xbox was never in my consideration range. So I've been a PC gamer for pretty much the entirety of my life, right? I've stayed away from consoles and always stuck to like a computer to enjoy my video games. And it is finally this generation that I've decided and set my mind that I'm going to be opting for a console version as well this time. And as far as the consideration range goes for which console to go for, it has always been the PlayStation 5 up until this point. Now even though I'm still considering the PlayStation personally, I feel that now there's a lot more stock for me to go on when it comes to Xbox just by this move, and just knowing that, that little bit, that inkling of doubt, am I going to get my beloved games on PS anymore? Is that going to happen? Do I have to wait an entire year to access a game like Starfield, or to access a game like Dishonored 3 or Prey 2 or Elder Scrolls 6? And those questions are really coming up in my head right now. And while it's exciting to know that, okay, hey, Bethesda now have the assurance of the backing and the financial stability that comes from being acquired by a company like Microsoft, I'm also starting to wonder, hmm, does this make my life a little more complicated when it comes to access to games?
Right. So the way I see it, these guys have pulled a move in an age where gaming is a lot more prominent as a form of consumption of media.
Mhm.
The same thing happened when Sony bought out, like, they didn't buy out many studios, but many studios just happened to side with Sony a
Right.
long time ago, and Sony ended up funding all of their games.
Hmm.
So those companies, because of the creative freedom they got and because of the money that Sony made through PlayStation 2, which is still the highest selling console of all time, if
Hmm.
I'm not wrong, they got complacent after, but what they achieved there was they knew that they would be dedicated to giving a certain lineup of games on every console generation after their mess up with PS3.
Right.
PS3, they got complacent. They didn't launch any noteworthy titles. 3 years within 3 years into launch, I think they they blew people away with Uncharted and I think the new Ratchet and Clank trilogy at the time, but there was nothing new. And considering the price point, which was an exorbitant $600 when it
Hmm.
just released, everyone flocked to the X360, which was, barring the hardware faults that it released with, it was a great play because you got great games, also great exclusives, and Halo was their cash cow,
Right.
and Halo was good at the time. Then what happened was Microsoft got complacent because they were just like, let's put Halo on everything. That'll save us a lot of money, and that'll save us a lot of time and maybe effort to get better games developed. So they relied heavily on third-party developers, and in that time, Sony learned from their mistakes and they built a legacy. I'll
Right.
always say this: Sony has built a legacy, and they still have the best games up until today, the 23rd of September, 2020.
Hmm.
What happens now is what Sony did years ago, learning from their mistakes.
Hmm.
This is Xbox doing the same thing. This is how I see it. But then again, just because they have good IPs doesn't mean they can knock this one out of the park.
Hmm.
Uh, that brings me to a point which I wanted to bring up. They might have bought Zenimax because, and this was called out by many YouTubers, two of whom I can name, Layman Gaming and Luke Stephens. Shout out. This was a year ago or last year. I think this was, yeah, close to a year ago, somewhere in December or early Jan. They said that Zenimax was looking for a buyout. They were looking to sell their studios, or they were looking to make some money. Either it was because of debt or because they were in some kind of financial rut. They
That.
just wanted to
Hmm.
sell. And I think they found a great buyer in Microsoft.
Right.
And considering where Microsoft is going now with putting their games across, well, their ecosystem, which is Game Pass and PC to some extent, it seems like a good move. But considering what they've done with their own IP in the past, like Crackdown 3 was a disaster. Here's the thing: I can't even remember the names of these games
Hmm.
because they just didn't
Crackdown.
matter to me.
So, uh,
State of Decay was a disaster. State of Decay 2.
so
I
remember
think the only success would be
Microsoft.
Forza.
Microsoft, the one consistent AAA franchise that has remained throughout with Microsoft and has maintained its quality is Forza, if you look at it.
True. I would
Uh,
agree.
Maybe you can count Age of Empires, but I don't think that has ever been part of the Xbox ecosystem until now. Like that has been just a Microsoft title thing. Um, like they had some good strategy games back in the day. That's it, and they have Flight Simulator, which So these are like good franchises that they had before Xbox, and they've now brought it to Xbox.
Right.
Uh, which is also part of their entire move to solidify Xbox as a product for gamers. Like, bring their original good titles onto the platform and also at the same time acquire other studios that are making good AAA titles to uh, attract people.
Right. Further
Because,
cement their position, basically.
yeah. So so back when PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 released, that was the only time when I feel like Xbox was relevant as a console.
Hmm.
They had the Saints Row franchise, uh they had Crackdown, they had um
Halo, State of Decay.
yes, they had Halo. Halo is like the biggest. They had the Forza game. Uh I think, yeah, even I can't remember more than this, but these are the ones I remember that were some of the biggest titles back then.
Right.
Uh, so they after like with PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, uh, I don't think there was ever a reason to buy an Xbox because Microsoft had already begun trying to port the whole Xbox ecosystem onto PC. Like at that point, like the Forza franchise started coming to PC. Horizon 3 and Horizon 4 are both on PC. And then now they brought the whole Game Pass thing wherein you can play like Gears of War and Halo and all these games
And
on
eventually
PC as well.
Quake, eventually all the games that are
Now,
coming up now,
yeah,
everything's going to be on Game Pass.
yeah. So
Day one
this,
launch, that too, apparently.
so Microsoft has been acquiring studios for a while now over the last
Right.
few years. It's not been like this is not the first time they've pulled it. This is a very big scale acquisition though. Like
Right.
it's
It is
like
the
huge.
biggest, apparently.
Yeah. Because before this they acquired a few indie studios like Don't Nod and Ninja
Ninja Theory,
Theory
yeah, of
and
course.
yeah. So Don't Nod is like big, but it's not big. It's like, your typical walking simulators with good stories.
Yeah. Eight
And
here.
Ninja Theory is Hellblade, and if I'm not wrong, Devil May Cry.
Yep.
Yeah,
The reboot.
The reboot.
yeah, the reboot. But the reboot isn't okay.
So,
But yeah,
hmm,
so I feel like Microsoft is trying to do with this is acquire good game titles so that Xbox can compete with PlayStation as a product.
right. So that
That is the very low down of it. Like,
so this brings me to a very interesting question that I want to ask you guys, and I have my thoughts on this as well. My question here primarily is who got the better end of this particular deal? Who benefits more? Is it Microsoft or is it Bethesda? I for one, I for one think Bethesda have won this round. I'll tell you why. Because I have some interesting stats in front of me, right? Uh, Apparently, towards the end of the last generation of consoles, they weren't doing too well, and it's pretty common knowledge, right, that their games weren't performing too well in the latter half of the last generation of consoles, the PS4 and the Xbox. I forgot which is it now, Xbox One X or Xbox Series X, which is it? It's
Xbox
the
One
Xbox
X.
One X.
one,
Oh yeah, I'm not going to call out the nomenclature over here. No, 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 I'm not doing that here. No, not this one. Okay, so hear me out. The last couple of titles they've not done too well, right? Just giving you a couple of names over here from piece that I'm reading. Well, Dishonored 2 underperformed, didn't work too well. Prey, well, critical acclaim, sort of reasonable reviews, but didn't perform too well. Evil Within,
finance.
massive commercial success. Nah, not really. Fallout 76, we all know the fiasco that it was. Rage 2 didn't work too well. So we have seen that besides the oddball, which I would probably say is Doom
Doom.
Eternal, uh, Bethesda
To
have
some extent,
struggled.
the Wolfenstein
To
series.
some extent, the Wolfenstein series, but none of Bethesda's games have really hit the mark and knocked the ball out of the park, to be honest. And it's at this point that I start wondering if Bethesda at some point towards the later half of the generation realized that, hey, we got to do something. We got to either release the next couple of games quickly and have them be mega hits, or we're going to end up in the dumpster effectively. And what I do know for a matter of fact is that probably while they were working on the games for next gen, they realized that the timelines, the gap between the games they've already done and the gap between the games that are due to come out is a long one, right? And we all know that these studios need like money to sustain. How are they going to keep developing and hiring talent to work on their projects if they don't have something to keep the income flowing and the revenue flowing in, right? And it's at this point that probably at that point of time, well, Kedar mentioned it earlier that they were looking for a buyout eventually, initially, and they probably didn't get the right buyer or probably not the right amount that they were looking for. But I think it's finally come to a point in their timeline and their life cycle that they realize, hey, we can't really hold off much longer, and this is not really a sustainable model for us, and we gotta find some strong backer who's gonna help us get from PS4 and Xbox One X. I can't believe it's this hard. Xbox One X and PS4 to PS5 and Series X. I think it's that gap that needed to be plugged, and the time duration of going from here to here is going to be too long because I don't see any of their titles really, besides Deathloop, which is already coming out in probably 7-8 months' time. I don't see any other titles close to finish. Maybe Hellblade now, of course. Hellblade wasn't part of their portfolio once upon a time, but now it is. And yeah, besides Deathloop, I don't see anything that's on the horizon anytime soon. So I think Bethesda's got the right
Starfield,
end of the stick over here.
Starfield.
Starfield's off. I don't think they're going to get Starfield out before 2024. I don't see that game anytime soon. I don't see
Yeah,
that
it
anytime
doesn't seem
soon.
very likely.
I don't see Elder Scrolls 6 before 2023 or 22 latest. I mean earliest probably. I
It's very shady when they announce games with just a GIF or a JPEG.
or or
You
or
you
or a
either
10
get the
second
game or you don't.
or a 10-second trailer in the middle of E3 for Elder Scrolls
Yeah,
6.
just out of nowhere.
Just a
But
Yeah.
title
it's
sequence.
yeah, yeah, that's
He
true.
God of War did that, but hey, you all know the reaction they got.
But it's but
I'm,
but
I'm,
God of War
I'm
is God
kidding.
of
I'm
War.
kidding. I know God
And
of War
God of War
is.
is releasing in
I mean,
2020.
it's one thing when Elder
Yep.
Scrolls 6 happened, and one thing when God of War happened. So hey,
Yeah.
And
Also, like God of War
for
was very clear on the year.
yeah,
also God of the last God of War released in 2018. The last Elder Scrolls released in 2011.
11.
and you're
Funny
still
how
playing it.
track records work.
Interesting. So
So
yeah, go on.
Essentially,
so
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Essentially, with Elder Scrolls, Bethesda have pulled a George R. R. Martin, I think.
that is some comparison right there.
Waiting for FromSoft to do that, but
Waiting,
let's hope
waiting.
that doesn't
eh,
happen.
Okay, even the year is the same, right?
isn't the book the same too? Aren't we waiting for book number 6 from R.R. Martin?
Yes, and the
Oh,
year is the same
Yes.
too.
ironically, we're waiting for book 6 and we're waiting for Elder Scrolls 6.
Wasn't
Hey,
book
what a
5
coincidence.
2011?
Haha.
Book
Hey,
5
Oh
is
yeah, it was
2011.
I think it is
2011.
2011. Oh, hey,
Yep,
we might be
even the
on.
year is the
You
same.
might be onto something over here. Maybe
Hmm.
R.R. Martin is the
Interesting.
successor for Todd Howard. You never know. maybe,
Yeah.
maybe he's like assassinated Todd Howard and he's gonna take over very soon. Oh man, hilarious coincidence. Anyway, yep.
The Lannisters and the
So
So
what do you guys think? Yeah.
the way I see it, so I am not a huge fan of the Western RPG.
Hmm.
Uh, Skyrim was okay for me. It was good when I played it. Today, I don't really care for it so much because I got introduced to the Soul series, which has better combat. But that's a story for another day. Fallout, never been into it. I tried playing a little bit of New Vegas. I know it's a good game. I just can't get into it. The whole Western RPG, the only time I think I have played it is when it was in the form of an immersive sim. Now,
Hmm.
when I say immersive sim, it's Prey and Dishonored.
Right.
So they're not technically RPGs, they're immersive simulators.
Right.
And that genre for me is on a different,
Level
like, that's on
altogether.
a pedestal for me
Yep.
because it gives you so much freedom in such concise spaces. That is tight level design. I love that. When everything is scattered and at the same time is cluttered, it overwhelms me, and I'm not a fan of that. On the contrary, I thoroughly enjoyed Outer Worlds, which was by Obsidian. That goes to show that I still have a place in my heart for the Western RPG. It's just that Bethesda doesn't do it right. That's just my opinion.
Will they now?
And will they now is the biggest question. Acquiring
Fallout was
studios.
originally Obsidian, right?
Yes, Fallout was originally Obsidian, and
Obsidian.
the original. yeah, creators from Fallout 1 and 2 made Outer Worlds, and which is why, like, I guess, which is why I like it so much. But it will be interesting to see how Microsoft moves with Bethesda and Obsidian under the same wing.
Hmm.
I mean, they also
They,
have Evil
I
Within them,
remember
which
there
I
was a
love.
point, I think a couple of
So
days ago, when Obsidian tweeted out the shrug emoji, in response to the acquisition. That was kind of hilarious. So hey, what goes around, what comes around, huh? Surprisingly, small world for
yeah,
Obsidian. It was actually
Also,
hilarious. Yeah.
mm, I have a question about this. Uh, so now that Obsidian and Obsidian and Fallout are essentially under the same ownership in a way, do you guys think that Obsidian will get some sort of control over Fallout again? Like maybe, like EA does with Need for Speed
Fallout
games.
New Vegas is touted to be now the most in demand title in the Fallout universe, probably. I think more than Fallout
Fallout New
5,
Vegas.
Fallout New Vegas 2 is probably the new. I mean, it's the new Skyrim, so to speak, or the new Elder Scrolls in the Fallout universe. I think everyone's sort of waiting because New Vegas is dearly loved by the community, and I think New Vegas 2 is now a very real possibility in that sense, especially with this acquisition. So we might just see it. Again, I don't
So
think we're
like,
going to be seeing it anytime soon because if this acquisition happened now, it's going to be a while before they actually start
It's going
working
to
on
be
it.
a while.
Yeah, maybe
Hmm.
maybe the
like
PS6 will be out by then. You never know.
I'm just thinking Microsoft might pull off what EA does with Need for Speed. So they have like a bunch of developers for Need for Speed, like Ghost Games, which was formerly
And
Black Box,
Criterion,
and
I
then
guess.
Criterion, yeah, Criterion.
Yeah.
Burnout.
So yeah, so do you guys think Microsoft will do the same thing with Fallout now, like switching between Bethesda and
Hmm.
Obsidian?
Interesting. I think they might just do that. I think they will keep their Fallout 5 to a specific set of studios, and they might let Fallout New Vegas develop on the side with a specific set of studios,
They
Obsidian.
including
already
Obsidian.
do that with Forza.
They already do that with Forza, right? I think that's
Yeah.
probably
So
what's
they
going to
have
happen.
Yeah, so they have Turn 10 and Playground Games. Turn 10
Hmm.
makes the Motorsport games, and Playground Games makes the Horizon games.
Right. I think
So,
that's what's going to happen eventually. I think it's too much to expect the two studios to work together because I'm pretty sure that I don't think that ended on very good terms initially, right? There must have been some kind of friction between Bethesda and Obsidian before they
Yeah.
hmm,
bid goodbye to
Yeah.
each other. And I think that friction, it's kind of hard to fix that kind of friction, in my opinion. So it won't be too easy to work together in the same studio, but the same franchise in different aspects. Possible, doable, yeah.
Yeah, but the tweet didn't quite say they had any bad blood. So
I mean,
I mean that is
that's.
better
I
than
mean,
that.
it's a
So
tweet. End of the day, right? It's a tweet. I mean, it's like a social media guy who's like, what? How does it? I don't care. I'm getting money to pay. I'm
you never
getting money.
know.
I'm getting paid to tweet
Also,
shrug emojis. It
they,
doesn't matter to me.
also they need to make money off of the console. So
Yeah, they need to make money off the console, definitely.
why not?
going back to
Huh.
your original question, though, what was your question?
My
I
original
just,
question was: Is who got the better end of the deal from here? Is it Microsoft or is it
yeah.
Bethesda?
Kedar, you want to answer that before I go for something else?
I also say I would say it's half and half. I won't really say everything is in Bethesda's favor right
I
now.
mean, I mean, for me too, the ratio is sort of like 55% Bethesda one and 45% Microsoft one. Something of that sort. It's
Uh,
fine margins in my
so
opinion.
possibly, but how I see it is Microsoft is still buying studios, right?
Right.
So that is one way Microsoft is still winning, independent of buying Bethesda. I'm
Hmm.
saying that.
Hmm.
Okay. When we consider Bethesda being bought, Bethesda is winning because they will get better funding. They may get better. You never know. There might be a developer crossover where they'll bring folks over from other teams. Pay them well this time
Right.
and actually make good content that doesn't have microtransactions in it. Similarly, Microsoft will now have a lot to bank on. They won't have to, sell the bare minimum. They will actually have stuff to sell with their console or
Yeah,
with Game
I think this
Pass.
sells the console and the Game Pass a lot easier. It makes for a
Yep.
lot more marketability for their entire ecosystem, as they
Because
call it.
at the end of the day, if Dishonored 3 comes, I am going to flock to it on Game Pass day one. I might spend on a
Oh
Series
yeah.
S. I am considering it because if they're taking these IPs and these franchises under these studios forward exclusively, and we will get back to exclusivity later,
Hmm.
it feels like Microsoft has a lot to benefit from. And at the same time, the way Microsoft is now doing creative control, looking at how Forza has evolved and how Playground Games has been given the chance to make Fable,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
is
that's big.
Mm-hmm.
That's enormous news. Okay. And that seems like it's coming from a good place from Microsoft for the first time in a very, very long time.
Right.
I mean, I'm talking Halo 1 that long. So this is a win-win for both of them. I don't see it as a complete win for either because look at what they did. They announced it a day before they launched their console. And what happened? People did buy the wrong console, but they did sell out the ones they intended to sell out. So
Maybe the Xbox Series X is actually a strategy to sell off like dead stock of the Xbox One
Xbox,
X. I think that's the strategy altogether. Probably that's their game plan, you know. Hey, let's fuck these guys up with a nomenclature and we'll sell out like dead stock in the process. Hey, that
so
works.
speaking of nomenclature, I actually think that the reason why the Xbox One X gets confused with the Series X so much is because the One X was such a forgettable console altogether. Like,
I mean, it was never memorable. That's the whole point, right? More than forgettable, I think
I
it's the
mean,
lack of
it's
memorability
like
about the
no,
console that,
it just released it. It launched as a console
yeah.
and like it existed, like as an option, but people were never really enticed by it, right? I mean, sure, I think the only reason it sold was Forza.
Probably,
Like,
probably to
I
an extent, and probably the
because
guys who are optimistic that maybe they'll perform better than than they actually ended up
yeah,
performing. But yeah,
yeah. After that though,
but if you
like
go back,
somewhere midlife,
what was the price difference between the Xbox One X and the PS4? Was it any different, or
it was
was
the
it the
same.
same? It was the same,
I mean,
yeah.
it was
Because
pretty much
there
the
would have been
same.
some hypothesis there if it had to be
Yeah.
like a couple of dollars cheaper, but hey, not the
Mm.
case probably.
So my
Yeah. The thing is, I'm still a bit surprised that the PlayStation 4 sold as well as it did the day it came out
Hmm.
because for the first year, I am very sure they had no launch titles.
Hmm.
Not like they have this time around. So
Yeah, this
that's
time
just a
they've
thought.
gone bananas in the PS5 era, definitely.
Yeah.
Where we're looking at a
And
plethora.
surprisingly,
I think
and
they
surprisingly,
capitalized.
an announcement was enough to have Microsoft sell all their points. Just an announcement,
Yeah,
not even a trailer from any one of these games. It's crazy.
it is. It is.
So yeah. So I think like I agree with Kedar here. Both of them are to gain. Like from a Bethesda standpoint, I see them like quickly starting to lag behind in the race against your Ubisofts and your uh, Blizzard Activisions and whatnot. They have like their big cash cows that they keep relying on. Uh, but Bethesda didn't really have anything of that sort to compete with.
Well, the cash cows
They,
are sort of heading towards the slaughterhouse at the
yeah,
moment.
like all they had is Doom, the latest of which was Doom Eternal, and then like they can't just immediately start working on the next Doom game and hope
Well,
that it will sell.
we hope they
Like,
are, because Doom
yeah, we
Eternal was
hope that.
great.
I know, but
Oh,
I'm
we're
just
getting
saying that.
DLC.
We're getting
Yeah,
DLC. Yeah,
yeah. My entire point is they can't just hope that they can't just start
they can't
working on
ride
the
the
next
Doom
Doom.
wave
And
forever.
hope,
That's true.
yeah, they can't just hope that the Doom will carry them forever. So it's just they needed something, and that's something because they needed something. I feel like Microsoft pounced on this opportunity to acquire like a studio that has some relevant titles that can
Right.
turn into big cash cows in the future.
Right.
Uh, I when it comes to Microsoft, I simply feel like they acquired Bethesda because they saw the opportunity to.
Absolutely. They
Otherwise,
sprung on the opportunity. Hmm.
they were already on a studio buying spree anyway, and I feel like when it comes to studios, like if you want your console to sell for good games in particular, there are better ones out, better studios to purchase out there than Bethesda. It's just that they saw that Bethesda was an easy purchase, and so they went for it. They
Hmm.
just pulled the trigger and they're like, okay, let's just do this.
Hmm.
Uh, it has potential. We can turn it into something lucrative. So it's like I feel like the reason this entire deal happened is because of, it was such a win-win for both parties.
Right. Right. Makes sense. That makes sense to me. Makes sense to me. Definitely in terms of finally being able to potentially boast some exclusive titles and gain some kind of equal footing versus Sony and
So
PlayStation, this is a great move. Speaking of exclusivity, what are we going to do now? Because we know that there are a couple of titles that have been announced as PS5 launch titles. Not launch titles, they're coming on the PS5, they're coming to the PS5 soon. Deathloop is one of them. And which is the other one? I keep forgetting.
Ghostwire Tokyo,
Ghostwire
the one
Tokyo
I
by
am
Tango
seriously
Gameworks.
excited about.
Yes. So we know that Ghostwire Tokyo and Deathloop by Arcane are in the works, well in development, and stated for a release, I guess, sometime later next year.
Yep.
And I believe they were marketed as PS5 exclusives. They
Timed
were
exclusives, but
timed
yeah.
exclusive. They were marketed as PS5 timed exclusives. And now, well, Bethesda has been acquired by Microsoft. So this means that now Microsoft has games launching on the PlayStation 5 effectively. But jokes aside, how does this work? How does something like this work? Because okay, a merger and acquisition, something of this sort, is something that has probably been in the works for a while now. I'm pretty sure, right? And I beg to ask two questions here. One, what does it do for the titles themselves? And what does this mean for Sony? Does it mean that Bethesda have to probably are the terms of agreement going to change with Sony? Are they going to rethink of how they're going to be talking about publishing Deathloop and Ghostwire? That's one question. The second question is, if this is something that has been planned for a while, which it has to be, something like 7.5 billion, even for Microsoft, it's not chump change, right? It's got to be planned. It can't just be an overnight whim that Bill Gates woke up and like, oh hey guys, go buy some 7.5 billion dollars worth of game studios. It's got to be thought through. And if this was thought through, then why would they market these games as PS5 exclusives? If they knew at some point of time, right, that these games are going to be coming on the PS5 for a limited amount of time, then shouldn't they proactively say, hey, okay, we can't say this in public fora because it's going to be rendered moot or obsolete in a couple of weeks anyway. So shouldn't we reconsider that? Is my question over here. So, two questions. One, shouldn't they have thought this through in terms of a marketing standpoint and what they're saying in public fora? And two, I forgot my second question. Rewind.
We will get to that.
We will get it.
I,
Exclusivity. Yes. What does it
exclusivity.
mean for the titles that have been declared as timed exclusives?
All right. Hmm. Interesting take, but I will save it for later, Avi.
hmm,
So let's start with the
I
exclusivity question.
okay, I can only sum it up with one statement.
Mhm.
It'll be real awkward to see a Microsoft Studios logo when you boot up your PlayStation with Deathloop.
I can't wait for it. That's going to be the highlight of the next generation. Oh man.
But that might not happen.
That might not
Why
happen.
though?
No, that won't
Come
happen.
on.
And
Give it
here's
for the
why.
memes. Give it for the memes,
three
guys.
hours ago, 3 hours ago, and this is on IGN's Instagram, by the way. IGN, I think they spoke to CNET, or
Hmm.
CNET spoke to Phil Spencer, and he said Bethesda is to remain semi-independent after Microsoft acquisition,
Hmm.
which is basically, and I'm going to read this off. So, speaking to CNET, Spencer made clear that while Bethesda games will adopt some of Xbox's new practices, including launching into Xbox Game Pass and becoming playable through game streaming, the company will retain some amount of autonomy that resulted into some of the biggest games of all time.
Right.
So we're probably looking at existing IP being on across all platforms. And another thing is this might not be under Microsoft Game Studios. This might be under Zenimax
Hmm. I think
Bethesda.
they retain the rights to put their
They
name on
retain
it,
the
right?
rights to put
Essentially.
their name on it,
I think it'll be
but
with conjunction with
all
Microsoft
Microsoft
Studios.
all Microsoft might do is fund their games. And
Right.
this is another thing. I don't think so. Minecraft is a great example of
Yeah.
a
Mojang.
game owned by Microsoft coming to other consoles and platforms. And it's not just that. The newest Minecraft game, what was it called? Minecraft Dungeons. That
Hmm.
could have easily been a Game Pass thing, but I'm pretty sure it's on PlayStation. Someone fact check me on that. It's on Switch. I know that for sure.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if it's on PlayStation, but I'm half and half sure it's on PlayStation. But that's the biggest example. When Microsoft acquired Mojang, it I don't think it shows Microsoft Game Studios when you switched on your PlayStation.
Yep, it's on
It,
PS4
it
and Switch
it's
too.
just
Yep.
right.
Yeah, it's
So
on PS4.
yeah. Considering that this and they've clearly bifurcated the two studios essentially.
Hmm.
So Zenimax is still going to operate as Zenimax, and
Right.
Microsoft Game Studios will be
It's still the
your
grandfather basically.
Turn 10 and Playground and Ninja Theory and
Right.
Double
Right.
Fine stuff like that.
Right.
So this will be interesting based on the latest statement that we have in front of us. But again, they also said that you know it'll be on a case by case basis. And then Todd Howard went on to say something like, it doesn't matter what screen you play on, regardless of the controller you own.
Right.
Then again, taking his word for anything is never mind.
Questionable.
Yeah, yeah.
So here's what I would do, right? If I were in charge of the decision making over here. Okay, we have already announced like certain exclusives for the PS5. Let them be. Make peace with it. Let them be. As long as Sony's cool with it, we're cool with it, right?
They said they did say they were honoring that deal. So
And yeah, I mean, we've heard the Microsoft side of it. I don't think we've heard the Sony side of it yet,
hmm,
which is yet to be heard. We don't know how Sony's
they're
reacting
still
to this.
they're still
They're
handling those
probably they're probably
pre-order
still
stuff.
they're still handing the 7.5
I
billion
still
dollars
think,
on their
yeah,
head.
I think Microsoft is trying very hard to push the fact that they are very open to multi-platform gaming.
Right.
Like,
But here's the thing. Right? I don't think that they're going to lie down for PS5 to walk over them. And I think, and I very strongly believe that if I were Microsoft right now and I was doing a deal with Bethesda, part of my deal would be, okay, guys, we'll fund your games, we'll help you sustain your business, but Fallout, Skyrim, Starfield, they're going to be exclusive on our platforms for at least a year, and then they can go to wherever you want. And
that is
yeah, I'd be baffled if, and there's a conundrum, right? Because if you're Bethesda, wouldn't you rather these games be available for everyone at launch because they're so craved at this point. We're craving for these games probably, but then what do? Now they're part of Microsoft, and Microsoft is probably going to be pulling the strings.
um I'm curious though, was Skyrim a huge success on the PlayStation?
Hmm,
The
Or
interesting.
console
Fallout?
versions were plagued with bugs, and
I
Like,
mean,
no,
it was a
bugs.
disaster on
it was a
PS3
disaster,
because I've
definitely.
seen my friend I've seen my friend play through the entire game pretty
Right.
much when we were in
See,
college. So
I'm pretty sure part of the reason OG Bethesda developed titles like Skyrim and Fallout are successful is because of their modability, and like the flexibility that a PC has to
Till
offer.
Creator Studio came in and wrecked it all, in my opinion.
Yeah, I know, but like, so these
hmm
games were because of the whole mod thing and everything, they were significantly easier to run on a computer than they were on a console.
Hmm.
If I'm not wrong, I don't quite remember them being very successful on PlayStation when it comes to sales, like console sales.
Probably not. Probably not.
no, because and here's another thing. The reason is because Morrowind, I think, was an Xbox, the original Xbox exclusive. So Bethesda has had exclusive deals with Microsoft in the past. They've just never exclusively been tied down and locked in with Microsoft until now. And
Yeah.
Morrowind was a success. Like
Hmm.
Morrowind was a moneymaker for them back when it released in whenever the Xbox One, the Xbox, the first Xbox was still relevant.
I'm
So
sure you don't remember the name, Kedar. It's okay. It's okay. Forget it.
no, it's just called X. No, that was just called Xbox,
Xbox.
but I called it the Xbox One because never mind.
Oh
Yeah, a
man.
lot of people called it the Xbox One.
Oh
So
hey,
Xbox
Xbox One and then
nomenclature is
Xbox One
confusing.
X. How cool is
No,
that?
so like it was Xbox, then Xbox 360, then Xbox One X, and now it's Series X.
I will dedicate my life's work to insulting the
So the
nomenclature by Microsoft.
so the on it has never remained consistent until 1X, and 1X was a disaster as a console.
Yeah.
So
Serves them right for naming the console like that. Anyway, let's come back and let's leave my vehement hatred for the nomenclature of Xbox aside for a bit. Kedar,
yeah,
what do you think? Exclusivity.
Yeah, as I said, like doesn't seem so exclusive right now.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, based on what we just heard or I read, their current IP might still come to PlayStation. But like then again, you never know. They'll just be like, we don't
This
want to make
preceded
those
the
IP
deal. Yeah.
anymore. We don't
Yeah.
want to make any more Dishonored, or we don't want to make any more Prey.
Hey,
It's fine.
maybe
Let's
this
just focus
maybe they
on
just like swap the
Bethesda
names
games.
around and they're like, oh hey, Prey is now Dishonored and Dishonored is now Prey.
Uh,
And they publish the games
or
as new IPs.
no, or like from a very obvious point of view right now, there is a question that even the PC-ness of these games
Hmm.
is very, very questionable right now.
Hmm.
Because when they say coming exclusively to Xbox and Game Pass, it doesn't necessarily mean it's coming to PC Game Pass. Because
Mm,
those games need to be optimized, those games need to be ported,
yeah.
and then they'll see the light of day on PC, which also means that game ownership will be a little bit at stake.
Right.
Because if they only put it on Game Pass, if it's an Xbox Game Pass exclusive, okay, Xbox Plus Game Pass exclusive, you may not see it on Epic or Steam.
Right.
You may not see it on on any of these ownership platforms, which might poke another bear altogether.
Ha, we don't want
Which
to get down
uh,
there, do we? Exclusive on the console,
yeah,
on the PC itself.
ownership. So regarding ownership, by the way, I can you name any game that is on the Game Pass that is not on playable on PC, Xbox? That is like there are maybe like a couple of them I'm aware. I just don't know
right.
the titles. Most
No,
of the
so
major titles are available to play on PC. Another thing about game ownership, you can purchase games on the Xbox Store.
you can, yeah, you can
You
purchase
own
games on
them.
the
You
Xbox
have
Store.
like an Xbox library. What Game Pass does is it allows you to play them like in the form of a games as a service subscription.
Service.
But also
Yep.
at the same time, if you want to own the game, if you want to purchase it, it gives you a
You do
discount.
have the option to
Have,
buy it.
yeah, you get a discount if you have the Game Pass subscription. Like
Yeah.
for
But
instance, I did not have Game Pass when I had Forza Horizon 4. I did not have Game Pass. I just bought Forza Horizon 4.
right, right.
And so Forza Horizon 4 for me is a Microsoft Store purchase. It's not a it's not an Xbox purchase.
Hmm,
Exactly.
interesting.
So
So for me, essentially, I was looking at more because Steam is a more dominant,
Hmm.
like you can
I
say
mean,
platform or
yeah,
storefront or marketplace.
the first place I'd
It
look
would
for a game
also
would be
make
on Steam. Yeah.
would be
so
Steam,
one
right? So and it's not a bad move that they would put it on the Xbox Store. Cool, they'd still make money, right? But then there is always going to be one community of people who will be extremely salty that it's not on Steam.
yeah, it's there now as you can see that's happening with Epic Game Store and Steam and all that.
Ubisoft,
My
just that's the biggest
yeah,
example.
yeah. So my entire thing is like exclusivity will be a factor. There's no doubt that exclusivity will be a factor when it comes to future Xbox games. I just feel like the exclusivity will remain locked inside the Xbox ecosystem
Right.
of sorts, which is Game Pass PC and the console, and
Right.
your xCloud gaming on the phone or whatever.
Yep. I'm pretty sure that the entirety of the mode, all said and done, all summed up, the entire idea behind this acquisition and probably the ones that are going to come eventually, because I do believe that Microsoft is going to purchase a couple of more studios beyond this. Which ones we probably don't know. We'll see as time comes, and we
They
shall.
wanted to get hold of Warner.
They wanted to get hold of
So
Warner. That deal didn't come through.
yep.
Yep,
AT&T straight up rejected.
rejected it. Yep, straight up.
But yeah, that would have given them
The
Rocksteady,
entirety of
Monolith.
Rocksteady, Monolith, Shadow of War,
Yep.
Gotham,
Yep.
Shadow.
Batman.
Yeah.
Pretty good games too.
Both the Batman franchises
Both
that
the
we
Batman
know of.
franchises.
So
Yep, including the Kill the Suicide. No, what was it? Kill the Justice League. Yeah, that's the one that's coming up,
Yeah.
right?
the Justice League.
Yeah. Hmm.
and uh, and the upcoming Knights of
Gotham
Gotham.
Knights. Gotham
Knights of
Knights.
Gotham.
Gotham Knights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Interesting.
So
Maybe they'll have a second thought. You never know. You never
this
know.
also puts me on another line of thought, though. Do you think Microsoft is also at the simultaneously trying to compete with other stores available on PC games like Epic and Steam?
I'm sure they are. I'm sure it's on their mind somewhere,
Yeah.
right? Because why would they? Why would they try to divert? Look,
Sorry.
everyone wants to get games and everyone wants to get people to their platform, right? Because when we get consumers to our platform, we make money out of it. It's that simple. It's that simple. And when someone makes a decision to purchase from a Steam instead of a Microsoft store, it's hurting Microsoft. I mean, it's not hurting Microsoft per se, but they're losing the opportunity to make money out of it end of the day. And that's going to have a cascading effect because now I'm pretty sure we're
Mm,
going to see subscriptions rise for the
Game
Game Pass
Pass.
over here 100%. There has to be a rise in subscription. They've already at 15 million plus, I believe, by the time they announce this. I'm pretty sure by the time we're done with 2022, we'll see 20 million. I guarantee it. We're going to see at least 5 million more on Game Pass by the time 2022 is up.
What are the big titles available to gamers available on Game Pass? Like, of course, the Bethesda thing will add a lot,
Mhm.
but as of now, subscribers only have Dishonored 2 is gone in October.
I
The
So
mean, I
big
mean
titles
the
would
old
be your
look,
Halo and your Gears of War. I
look.
mean, if you are talking
they
Honestly,
about
have,
strictly exclusive.
honestly,
yeah.
look. The value of the older games is kind of, kind of old now because look, Dishonored was 2016, 17. I'm pretty sure the people who wanted to play Dishonored by now would have probably
Played
played
it.
it,
Mm,
probably played at least like 85,
90%.
90% of it, right? So the value
I
really
feel like,
now is the long-term investment of it. It's like
yeah,
I think it's that whole thought that we want to be the Netflix of gaming,
yeah.
and
And
that's where the idea
I tell
comes
you
from.
what, because the fact that they're already at 15 million with just what, these games? Like,
Yeah,
these,
it's bound
mostly
to raise
right
their
now,
stock. It's bound to raise their stock. There's no questioning
yeah.
about it.
So Bethesda will obviously bring more people to their platform, but they will need bigger hits than this. Like, they'll just need good games.
I mean,
Otherwise,
as far as good games and the potential of good games are concerned, I think we have our hands full here. In terms of good games that can come out of this move alone, okay, let's count. We have Elder Scrolls Skyrim, Elder Scrolls 6. We have Fallout 5 potentially. We have Fallout New Vegas potentially.
Starfield.
We have Starfield, which is confirmed. We have Deathloop, which is confirmed. We have Dishonored 3, which could come anytime soon. We have Prey 2, which could come anytime soon. Wolfenstein, you never know what the future holds for that franchise. And God alone knows what other new IP they'll come up from this. And I'm
uh,
sure I'm missed. Doom, of course, Doom. So
I'm saying among these right now, the only confirmed good ones that they have, like, like that will guaranteed sell is any upcoming Doom title, or Deathloop,
I disagree. I disagree. I think all of these are. I think the problem with the games that I'm mentioning off this list that and the reason they didn't work for a very strange reason is probably because some of these were not marketed too well in my opinion. I think games like Prey, I think games like Dishonored deserve the same level and same niche of marketing that probably a Skyrim or probably I mean look at Deathloop, right? Deathloop has got insane marketing. It's got insane footage so far.
which
We've
is why
seen
it's
which is why
popular.
it's got that
And
hype about it, right? And because well,
yeah,
because Arcane's formula is now proven, right? They've proven their formula works.
yeah,
They've proven their metal with Dishonored and whatever they've done so far, right? So
yeah.
I think now there is a lot of stock. So if I'm a user, right? If I'm a consumer, I'm gonna think, okay, hey, if on launch I get access to even one of these titles on a monthly basis, right? Even one of these titles on a monthly basis, that's insane value because AAA value for purchasing these games would be at least what? I mean, it's I guess it's $70 for the upcoming generation, the average for a AAA title.
Yeah.
It's 8 times a monthly subscription. So
There you go.
here.
There you go. I mean, I would rather pay because hey, it's one thing to own a game right from the get go, right? I mean, everyone wants to own a game at some point of time. But if it means accessing the game, playing it, and then probably buying the game at a future point of time on a discount somewhere, Why not? This works better. Maybe I now subscribe to Game Pass, get access to the game on launch itself, and then when your Steam Christmas sale comes about, voila, it's in my library.
I still feel like they need more games though.
I
They
think
do
this
need
is
more
I
games.
they do need no. I probably think they might probably do a couple of new IPs, but in terms of
They
okay,
do.
they need to announce their games. That's the thing. I think if they announce these games you have mentioned over here, I think they're pretty good to go for a good
Yeah,
couple of
but they have
years.
it. The only announced games as of now are Deathloop and
Ghostwire
Starfield.
and Ghostwire.
Yeah, yeah, and Ghostwire.
Yep. But
I'm
but
just
don't be surprised if you see these announcements coming up in the next 2-3 months. I won't be surprised. I'm pretty sure that these have probably been in pre-development slash early development, and now with the funding confirmed and assured, they'll go on a hiring. They'll go on a hiring spree now, and we'll see some crazy progress in the next couple of months. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that by the time March 2021 is here, we will see at least three of these games announced, like definitively announced. Take it in writing from me. Three games from this list I've given you, definitely announced by end of this financial year that we're talking about.
Hmm.
Because that's
Possible.
probably what they needed, right? They probably needed that
They
financial
do
boost to sustain and confirm that hey, we're not going to get canned, are we? Because that's the fear that every development studio probably
because
has.
they don't have launch titles this time around.
They
Or
don't.
do they? Does Xbox have any launch titles? I don't think so. Their entire I mean Halo was supposed to be their launch title, but that got pushed.
Yep.
Is there anything I'm missing out? I don't think so.
I
Like
don't think so. I
Forza
think they just
Motorsport.
it
Forza Motorsport, yeah, but
When is
possibly.
that releasing?
We saw the last their showcase was in what June, and they only announced upcoming games. They
yeah,
never.
they
So
never give
one
it
of
like a
their games, I
definitive.
think, Everwild was a game they were coming up
While
with,
they
which looked
they
really
men- they
pretty.
briefly showed
Sort of
Avowed.
favorite.
They
That
showed
game
Avowed in
didn't
between.
even know. Yeah, that Everwild didn't even know what the gameplay loop was going to be
Yeah.
when they showed off that trailer. So it does come from a place which keeps me very skeptical about it.
Hmm.
And as far as what games we will see, of course, we can't take a call. But if it is going to be so soon, they might be the same old IPs with sequels and coming multi-platform. Maybe never
Definitely.
know.
Mm-hmm.
They may
We
just
have
focus
Hellblade 2
all of
Yeah,
coming
their
up. That's
money and
confirmed.
attention.
even Forza Motorsport is not a launch title. It's
Right.
not
But
gonna
yeah,
launch
Hellblade
along with
isn't a launch
the.
title.
Right. Hellblade isn't a
Yeah.
launch title. Hellblade 2 is confirmed. I mean,
So they have no games launching with
the
the
Xbox
The
Series
Series
X.
console,
X.
Yeah.
But
and yet people
yeah,
have already
people have
bought it.
flocked to the store by the way, and of course they've been frustrated by the store. That's a different game altogether. But they've
Uh,
flocked to the store.
I'm just curious how many sales of the Series X come from their Xbox Microsoft Rewards system. Of course, Rewards is locked into US, UK, and Canada regions, if I'm not wrong. But a lot of gamers played Xbox games in the previous console, One X, and like earned just about enough through Xbox Rewards to buy the new console outright.
Hmm.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Interesting.
pretty cool.
That's interesting. I then
So
we probably will not
I'm
know the
just
numbers for that.
curious. Yeah, I'm just curious as to what numbers that category of
That
people is
category of people
contributing
could
to
probably
sales.
be maybe a couple of 100,000, 100 to 1,000. I mean, not 100,000, hundreds to
100,000
thousands.
would be too much. Yeah, it'll
100,000
be
is
like
that
how
would be
many?
that's way too many consoles to give away.
Yeah, but how many sales have they generated?
For what? The X Series X?
Yeah,
We
like
have
just
no idea.
Oh,
It's
they
been a
won't give you the
disaster.
numbers now.
They won't give you the numbers now. It's
there's
going
no
to be at
number,
least
but
three, 6 months till they give you like a
They
fiscal
may
figure.
give
I
like
mean,
launch numbers,
tentative.
yeah, at in March, but
Yeah,
not before that.
How many One X's did they sell?
God alone knows.
A lot less than PlayStation 4s.
I
That's
know, but
that's that's
I
I'm
more
know
talking
enough.
how
vanilla
many.
PlayStation, not even Pro.
I'm, I'm asking how many One X's did they sell when people accidentally bought the One X
Oh,
compared to.
One
this
X
time
has
around,
has One X has seen a
767
740%.
increase.
Yeah, something
Yep,
around that range. 740% ish increase in sales.
increase.
That's I
So we
mean
still don't know.
I mean I can't even get I can't. That's a topic that's like beyond me,
We
you know,
don't
it's
have any
beyond me.
absolute numbers then, because I thought that might give us like a tentative clue as to how
Yeah.
So
many.
so that's
Series.
just 767 more consoles.
Yeah, basically. Basically. Are you saying that this one is 100 consoles?
So what?
One console? Oh my math.
Yeah,
No,
Oh my
no.
mine's
math.
bad too.
Oh man, that's hilarious. That's actually hilarious. What's even more hilarious is this entire nomenclature, but then that's for another day. That's for another day,
Yep.
honestly. Huh, crazy. Crazy news. So
Yeah.
let's
So
sum up. What do you guys think overall? Last closing thoughts on this crazy acquisition. What are you most looking forward to?
Don't care about the platform. Just give me the game. I
Which one?
seriously don't care about
Which
it.
is which is
Just
your
give me
most
all the games.
anticipated which is your most anticipated confirmed and unconfirmed game from Microsoft Studios, including the new Bethesda?
Ooh. Oh, if we're talking, okay, just Microsoft or also or just Bethesda?
Well, Microsoft now owns Bethesda, right? So which game
Hmm,
would you say
that's a tough one.
confirmed and unconfirmed?
Hellblade, Hellblade for sure.
Confirmed,
Yes.
right?
Unconfirmed, also unannounced potential Dishonored sequel.
Hey, man, we can't be mimicking each other. We need to have some differences. Come on.
Okay, unannounced Prey sequel. It's the
Hey, that
same.
was my second alternative. Come on. Okay, what about
You
you, Ravi?
can take Dishonored.
so personally, as a gamer, I've never been in very into the Bethesda titles, so
Hmm.
can't say I'm very excited or hyped by this move. Uh, I am still super hyped about the PlayStation I'll be buying soon, but I do feel like this gives Microsoft a baseline to start from to build their
Portfolio.
game library of sorts, like their
Yeah, their
portfolio
portfolio.
of good games to make the Xbox viable. That's how I would sum it up. Like they needed that. And in terms of which game I am most hyped for from between among these two, with this tie-up, that would be Deathloop.
Ah, interesting.
Because I mean, Deathloop is,
Interesting.
I know it's already, it's not necessarily in the Xbox infrastructure because it's already confirmed as a PlayStation thing, and Microsoft intends to honor that.
Right,
But technically, it's now comes under the ownership of Microsoft.
right. True, true.
So Deathloop would be the game I would opt. And
For
I'm
me,
genuinely hyped for that game because it's pretty good.
yeah,
I will be
I
for the
I'm
PlayStation.
pretty sure I am too. I mean, Dishonored tech is good tech, so it just works. Speaking of which, my titles would probably be Dishonored, but instead of a Dishonored 3, what I'm actually looking forward to is a Dishonored reboot. So I don't think the Emily Corvo storyline is going to continue. I think that we're going to see a Dishonored reboot. We're going to see something completely fresh. Same theme, of course, the same steampunk magic combination, but a complete reboot of the entire story in a different location of the universe. And besides that, I think Hellblade is definitely my game of choice to look forward to. I think the first one was insanely good. Can't forget that experience. So yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. All right. So with that, let's close our conversation for today. I'm sure we'll see a lot more news coming up soon and a lot of implications, a lot of questions asked, a lot of questions unanswered. We'll see some answers soon and time will tell. And as the generation war, the console war continues, we shall see what it has to offer for us. So with that, we close for the day. Good night. See you later.
Good night.
Bye bye.